So I've said before, I try really hard not to make videos. There are reasons for that. I probably spend some significant percentage of my resources avoiding making videos. And sometimes there's this sophisticated process to get for the rat to get the cheese and for me to go ahead and make one. These aren't on. I don't know why I have them on my head. So yesterday I was getting blasted by all these things that I wanted to make videos about. And thankfully I was super busy with work. And so it was easier to not make them. But there's one thing that I think has gone through the cracks here that I need to say something about. Two things, maybe. So, how can I address this? So, as I watch the news, I see things unfold, and typically I'll have a pretty good idea about where that current event sits in the greater scheme of things. And I see things, I perceive connections with other things that I'm pretty confident few people do. And sometimes I think that I perceive things that no one else does. And it's this complex web of varying awareness and connections. So what I would love to do is just constantly, all day long, read the news. Well, not all day, every day, do a segment where I go over news stories and I tell you how this fits into things. But there are a lot of problems with that. One of the biggest problems, this is point number one, is things are so far gone that if I were to plainly tell you what is wrong with this picture for a given news story, I would probably get booted off of YouTube. So that's interesting because I think a significant portion of the US population would find nothing, the most they'd be able to find fault with about that is to just say this is a particularly eccentric person. And a significant segment of the population would be appreciative and find it valuable. But you can't say that stuff anymore. And so I've never been one to shrink away from saying or doing certain things, but you do have to prioritize. And another way of putting this is you get to pick the hill that you die on sometimes. And if you're going to die for a hill, you better make sure it's the best hill you have access to. So there's that. The other reason this matters is because understanding is hierarchical, just like pretty much everything else. And so sometimes you can make a lot more progress teaching things in a slightly more general way and then letting that light trickle down to the specifics for various reasons. One, you can address the more important, the more pressing lack of information at that level, without which the stuff in the specifics might not matter as much. But also because we have significant barriers in the specifics that our minds are kind of already made up because we've already addressed that. We have a trajectory in that regard. So when you come at somebody and you say, look, public schools are so far gone now that it's pretty much child abuse. So if you have the ability, you should treat it as if your kids are with predators. And if you would find the resources to do something about that in terms of homeschooling, if that were the case, that they were literally going to get fiddled with at school, which a lot of them actually are, but obviously not the majority yet. As of yet, I should say. But if you would find a way, then maybe you should find a way now. We could go further with that, but hopefully you're aware of what is going on in that regard, but that's just one thing, right? So what I'm talking about is all these laws that are getting passed, or school boards are practicing things where they're overtly teaching kids and doing things with kids and giving kids rights to do things that parents absolutely do not consent to. And the parents are going to the school board meetings and complaining as if, if someone's willing to do that behind your back, do you think they're going to stop just because you tell them to? They're just going to find ways to do it that you don't know about. But it's like besides the point of the real issue. If these people are going to do things like that, maybe you shouldn't have your kids in public schools, or maybe you should fight to a couple of states, or they're introducing these I don't know what they're called, but they're basically like freedom of school bills where either parents can put their kids into a different school other than the district they're assigned to, or they get some sort of voucher for homeschooling, that sort of thing. And several states are pushing with this, so that's kind of cool. But maybe you should fight for that. And until that happens, maybe your kids shouldn't be in the public schools, right? So anyway, everyone's already doing something in terms of what their kids do for school. So by definition, anything you suggest that's a change is going to challenge a pre-existing belief in every case, and that's not easy to do. It's not easy for people to change on those things. So again, it helps to do the transcendent thing and then let it trickle down. And also a principle, a transcendent level understanding is going to apply to a bunch of things. And so maybe like for school choices, as an example, the transcendent principle there would be orient what you do with your kids to their greatest benefit. And there you go. That covers public schools, it covers sports, covers video games and phones. There's a whole bunch of stuff that it covers. It covers where you live. If you live in a place where your kids can't go outside, you're probably not living in a good place for your kids, right? So that's an example of a transcendent principle trickling down. So maybe I'll cut that off here and then just make this a short video and pick up where I left off, verging into another topic.